Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the live match reaction to Everton 0, Manchester City 1. Everton lose a game that, despite the calibre of the opposition, we really didn't deserve to lose. It's a real gut wrencher, this one, I think. Everton have lost the game today, haven't played as well as I think I've seen Everton play for about 5 years.
It's up there with the best performance of the season for me.
It is the best performance of this season by a mile, in my opinion. Maybe the Leeds game, but
no, you got to take into account who we were playing. We were playing Leeds, we were in free for all.
I think it was an excellent performance, and we got exactly what we didn't deserve. And football's cruel like that, and we'll talk about how that came about. Of course, it was a late-ish winner from Phil Foden from a terrible mistake by Michael Keane at the back.
You know who?
And then obviously a lot of contentious decisions either side of that, which have conspired to rob us of what would have been a well-deserved point at least, I think.
A crucial point considering that a lot of teams around us picked up results today. Watford got a massive point at Old Trafford, didn't they? And Burnley fought back and got a point against Crystal Palace, and Newcastle won. So we really needed something to get something out of this game, and we should have. And the only reason we haven't is because, one, Michael Keane is a diabolical defender, and two, perhaps more importantly, because the officials in this league are, I'll say it, corrupt.
There's no other way for it. And brilliantly enough, we will get into this. Frank Lampard touched on this as well. So fair play to Frank Lampard. He's obviously done an interview after the game, and he's pretty much said that Chris Kavanagh, we're fighting for our lives. In quote, he said, we've lost a point potentially where we're fighting for our lives by a professional who can't do his job right. And he goes on to say that it's at best incompetence and who knows what at worst, which we know exactly what he's alluding to there, and he's exactly right to allude to that.
Oh, bang on. He spoke for every Evertonian, I thought, and it's just endeared Frank to the supporters even more. I think he spoke brilliantly after the game, not just in his comments about not just in his comments about the officials. He spoke brilliantly about the crisis going on in Ukraine, and he spoke brilliantly as well when he said, this is the time for Evertonians now to not look at the table and panic. He said, I know the table makes for grim reading, but it looks for grim reading when I got here. And there's still 14 games to go, and the performances are slowly getting better. I know we've had a couple of up and downs now, haven't we? 1 week we're fighting and showing all the determination and the grit that you'd want to see, and the next week we just roll over and get beat with a whimper. But I do think that Frank's sort of methods and his ideas are very slowly getting across to certain players in the squad, and it's making them kind of up the levels a little bit. Not everyone, clearly, who we'll go on to, but the more I hear of Frank Lampard, the more and more I'm beginning to really get behind him and think, yeah, this is the right guy we've got, at least the right guy for the time being. I just think he speaks brilliantly, and he's a manager who I'm quite sure is going to get us out of this mess. It's just whilst we're in the mess,
I'm very confident.
It's terrible stuff, isn't it? Yeah.
It was really painful today, but we will touch on the game in a moment. But in the grand scheme of things, after, like you mentioned there, Frank's words, and but more importantly, like the level of performance we put in against the calibre of opposition, we haven't played that well against Manchester City since we last beat them the 4-0, which was obviously excellent. But Man City have been consistently the best. That was the last season where, like, I'd argue they weren't the best team in the land. When we beat them 4-0.
Yeah, that was Pep's first year, was it? When
they still had a couple of aging players. They finished third, I think.
Yeah, they didn't win the league that year, did they? It wasn't the year Liverpool won it. I think that was the year that
Chelsea won it.
Chelsea under Conte won it. Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. Manchester City are, on paper, stronger than they've ever been, but we just made Manchester City in that game look nothing special at all, really. I know they dominated possession like they always do, and they had us pinned on our own half for most of the second half, or at least a good half an hour period. But
what normally happens in these games is we get peppered and peppered and peppered, whereas for the first time,
Pickford had nothing to do for the first half, and second half he made a fantastic double save at one point. But what was Pickford?
For me, what matters most for me about this is that I've always been envious of teams in the league. A good example for me is Crystal Palace. Sides who always seem to go to the best teams, and even if they don't win or they get beat, they always seem to be able
themselves,
to
play their game.
They always seem to give the best teams something to think about. We've never done that. We always seem to roll over and get our bellies tickled against these teams normally, and I feel like today we really held our own. I know we didn't get the result we wanted, but
we do it at Goodison. But the problem for years has been we haven't done it away, have we? And again, this was a game at Goodison where the players well, 1 week it's the fans are too harsh on the players and it's not nice, and the players can't perform in front of the Everton supporters because we're too nasty and too expectant. And then the next week it's, oh no, they can't get through games without the supporters, so they can make their own. Which one is it?
Whatever the
supporters' fault, is it not? But no, I don't want to go on.
The fans
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole again. Yeah, the fans are unbelievable, and I don't want to make this video about that again. But the fact of the matter is,
this is a fan channel. The people tuning in here are Everton fans, and excellent. Anyone who's at that game always read up. Nearly made the difference there.
Should have made the difference, and it's not anyone's fault other than a shithead official and a crap defender who's been crap for as long as I can remember that we haven't. We'll come on to the VAR stuff, but the goal we conceded, mate, who's at fault again? I know this one was typical. I know this one was a big swab of bad luck attached to it, but how many times is Michael Keane just going to be at fault for goals that go in? He's god awful. He's hell bent on taking us down, and I think he's
single-handedly going to. At the moment, he's single-handedly trying to take us down.
He's diabolical. He's absolutely diabolical as a defender, honestly. And people would say, I've said it for a long time. Oh, he's just Burnley level. He's just a bang average defender. He belongs in the bottom half. Yeah, that's the point I was going to make. No, he's not. He's not Burnley level because Sean. Do you think Sean Dyche would have him back based on the way he's been performing over the last 18 months and how he's performed for the majority of his time at Everton? I know he's had good spells as well, but do you think Sean Dyche in a relegation scrap like they are every year would look at Michael Keane and hang his hat on him? Of course he wouldn't. Michael Keane doesn't belong at this level. No mind at Everton Football Club, and the day he's out of this team, the day he's gone, whether he's sold or his contract expires or something happens to him, which means we can just basically throw him in the cupboards like what's happened with a certain other player. Just the day he doesn't have a chance of playing for Everton anymore, I'm going to have an open top bus parade. I think it would merit it because he's hell bent on just destroying us in every game he plays in. How many goals has he just been at fault for? Some of them were unlucky, like the one tonight. Some of them were just sheer terrible defending and terrible awareness. And some of them are just because he's mentally weak and doesn't do the correct things when he should do. And a lot of other players who people just don't think are as good as him can do effectively. I know people are going to think I'm being harsh here. Maybe I am being because I'm just emotional after the game and say, well, it was just one of those kind of things. But why has it always got to be him? Why is he at the centre of everything that goes wrong in the defence? And why has it been that way for about 3 years now? For me, I think he's worse than Holgate. I don't say that lightly.
I agree with that. I thought Holgate was relatively decent today.
I still don't like Holgate. I still don't like Holgate, and I still don't want Holgate for the long term. But I can stomach the sight of seeing Holgate more than I can stomach the sight of seeing Michael Keane. That's how I feel. As I just said, why is it always Michael Keane at the centre of everything? That's just wrong with our defence in games.
The thing with Holgate is he's 25, so you might still improve a little bit. Whereas Keane's 29, he should be a prime defender, the senior defender leading, but he's not. He's a coward.
I just don't want to see the fella anymore. Look, and I'm hoping Lampards has done what he will look at him and do what he's done to Andre Gomez, because that's another reason I like Frank Lampard, because after last week, Where was Andre Gomez this evening? He wasn't even in the squad, legged. I don't know if he's injured. I've not heard if he's injured or anything, but if he's got like a little muscle pull, if it comes out that he just failed a fitness test or he got picked up a knock in training and he couldn't make it, I'll call bullshit on it. I unless it comes out that he's got a serious injury and he's going to be out for a while, I believe the reason he wasn't involved was tonight was because Lampard saw him last week against Southampton and just couldn't stomach him anymore. I thought, forget it, can't hang me hat on you. You can't be relied upon.
I think Lampard's obviously a lot more diplomatic, but I'm surprised he didn't do what Dunk did with Moise Keane, to be honest, last week.
Yeah, but my point is, I'm hoping if what I believe's happened to Andre Gomez has happened, where they've just looked at him and thought, get lost, don't want anything to do with you between now and don't want anything to do with you for the rest of the season, and in the summer, we're going to ship you around. I hope we do the same to Michael Keane, honestly. I'm so sick of the fella. I'm sick of him. He's going to take us down.
Yeah, I think the problem I have with Keane is, like, for me, Michael Keane now for me is like if you made like a mural of the last like 5 years, he's the poster boy for everything that's been wrong with us. Like,
he's not the only person who's ever at fault. I don't want to seem like we're just piling on him. But
I think he's the one who sort of stands out. I think it doesn't help that he was bought in that summer where he really spunked it up the wall. With the likes of, like, Klassen and obviously much worse signings, but I think it's the fact that I think he epitomises this era of overspending and failure.
Yeah, he's just got everything attached to him that Evertonians can't stand in a player. No bottle, no tangible improvements, doesn't repay the faith that gets put in him, will shrink under pressure. Overrated, as you said, like how he's got England call-ups, I'll never know.
That always baffles me, but
yeah, just a player who people look at, a player who probably a lot of non-Everton fans look at and think is a decent all-round defender, not anything special, but he's probably good enough for Everton. And we look at him as Everton fans, think absolutely not. He's not good enough. He's not good enough. If anyone thinks he's good enough for us, that shows what they think of Everton as a club. And our standards are higher than people think they are.
I mean, the issue I've got with, I think it's not, he's overpriced and, overrated
and overindulged. How many managers have given him a chance now?
And also, he's one of those. I think he epitomises this era of underwhelmment since Mashiri's come in, but also the issue I've got with Michael Keane is Everton have had eras where we have been absolutely horrific, worse than the team that we've got now, by a mile. But no matter what, in the Premier League era, Wimbledon 94, Coventry 98, you had, even when the team was horrific, you had your Dave Watson there, David Weir,
brave footballers.
You had like Jagielka. Even when we've struggled, we've always had a solid centre back.
Yeah, just someone. Yeah, if we can keep them fit, will be good enough for us. Just a player, someone with character, someone with bravery, someone who will never ever shrink, no matter what goes wrong. Like, I mean, even Sylvain Distin, he made bloomers as well, probably more than people remember him making. I know everyone just remembers the Wembley one, but he made the odd bloomer. But he had the character always to bounce back from it. He didn't go through the back. He didn't go through the back door and basically have it put out there that the Goodison crowd are too nasty to him and that affects his confidence, which is what Keane and others have done. They've kind of gone through sort of little sources they've got, whether it's Ben Foster on that stupid podcast or whether it's just other people, mates that plan through their agents have got in the media trying to justify the poor performances and just try and blame it on the supporters. Whenever any other player in the eras past has been diabolical and made mistakes, they've never blamed it on the atmosphere in the ground being too hot for them. That's what bothers us.
All those players we mentioned before were like, they could handle it. I think, your Dave Watsons, Weirs, Jagielkas. We've always had like defenders who were sturdy. I think Sylvain Distin, like, for me, is the polar opposite of Michael Keane. For me, he was criminally underrated. I think he's exactly the type of player that I love to see at Everton.
Wasn't just him though. We've had other defenders who didn't have, they're not PK, they're not Puyol, they're not Van Dijk.
You had players like Joseph Yobo, Lescott, Like
Lescott was a great player. Lescott was a great player, but I'm talking about other people like Alan Stubbs and who else did we have for a little while? I'm trying to think of
Richard Goff. Someone's just mentioned in the chat.
Richard Goff, and Jagielka's the big one from the Moyes here, isn't he? And even Heitinger. I mean, I know Heitinger was split opinion. Some people rated him, some people didn't, but he had 100 times the character this fella's got. Honestly,
that's what I mean. And I know, like, it's not just him. There's, like, your Holgates and whatnot. There's Yerry Mina is not reliable enough fitness wise. We've got to be honest, with the exception of Ben Godfrey, just bomb out the entire sort of.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said we've always had at least one really dependable defender, and I don't think we've got any now. Mina because he can't stay fit. Keane because he's a mental midget and he's a liability. Holgate because he's not developed to the level we thought he was going to be, and he's probably never ever going to be at the level. And Ben Godfrey could be, but he's too young and hasn't proven it yet. There's still a long way to go for him.
He's had the long COVID as well, so
yeah, and there's no guarantee that he will get to that level. I'm hopefully he will. I'm hopefully he can get back to that form that he showed for us in his debut campaign. But he's still too young. He still shouldn't be a player who everyone looks at thinking we should be looking to start him week in, week out. He's still, how old's Godfrey? He's still 21, 22, isn't he?
23, I think.
23. That's still too young to be like a starting centre back for Everton, I think.
To be honest, no, it's not too young, but he should be alongside a steady, experienced head.
Yeah, I mean too young in the sense that we should have someone ahead of him who he should be aspiring to get ahead of. He's still 23. He shouldn't be just putting the team. We shouldn't have a 23-year-old who is automatically in our best pairing. Because if you're already getting in the team, what is there for you to aspire to? You should be 22, 23, 24, especially when you're a defender. You've got a longer career than maybe a forward's going to have. You should be looking at it and thinking, there's a 28, 29-year-old who's in the team right now, and I want to be getting in the team ahead of him. So by the time he's 31 and I'm 24, 25, I'll have been here long enough to show everyone what I can do, and everyone will see them improving and that he's maybe getting that past it, and I'll overtake him naturally. It should be a case of I come into the club and I'm here a year, if that, and I'm automatically in the best pairing and I'm straight in the lineup. Because what does that say about what was already here? Ben Godfrey is, I do like Ben Godfrey, but if Ben Godfrey is who people think should be starting as our first choice centre back with someone else, then that says an awful lot about how crap our defence is. Ben Godfrey's still a baby.
That's the issue I've got, is more, we've seen it so often this season when we've been struggling, the amount of clamour there is for young lads to be thrown in, which is great. You want young kids to be blooded, but it's because we're that desperate for someone decent that we're hoping that like 19, 20-year-olds are going to come in and do the job, because it's just, I just think that's the big issue I think I've seen today. Like, what upsets me, I think, about Keane's mistake here is that he's let his teammates down. The rest of the team...
It's not a surprise. That's what upsets me. It'd be a heartbreaker if it happened to someone like, I don't know,
Richarlison,
or even just think of defenders past. It'd be a heartbreaker if that happened to Jagielka, or if that happened to Distan, or that happened to Heitinger or Unsworth
or Yobo or someone like that.
Because it wasn't really part of their game. It wasn't something that was happened. I was going to say 4 or 5 times a season, but it feels like it happens 10, 11, 12, if that times a season. It feels like it happens near enough every game, every week with Michael Keane. It's just not a surprise, is it? He did it. He's been doing it ever since he arrived here, and even in those little times where he had a good run of form, and then he maybe had another diabolical mistake in him, he wouldn't just carry on with his great run of form. It just feels like one mistake will and he spirals downwards, and I think he's spiraled downwards again earlier on in the season, and there's just no coming back from it this time. There's no recovery for him like there has been in a couple of years past, where he's come back and he's ended up having runs of form that last for maybe 4 or 5 months, and everyone's kind of willing themselves to believe in him again. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think Evertonians are fed up.
It won't happen again, and
I don't think he's got the mental strength anyway to come back from this again.
But also, he hasn't got the system anymore. I think Lampard's system's going to want someone a bit more aggressive and mobile than him because, Keane used to do quite well in these really deep low block formations, but
we played in a low block for that second half.
Yeah, true. That's where he messed up, I suppose. But for me, the issue being, I think it's sad because it sort of undermines how well everybody else played then because we've lost the game. Everyone else on the pitch, I think, could be proud of what they did here because Jordan Pickford was excellent. The double save that double save deserved to win a game.
Yeah, I wasn't being honest with you. Maybe it's just me, and people will disagree in the comments. And feel free because I'd like to hear other opinions. But I wasn't particularly impressed with Iwobi tonight. That's all. I think he was just being back to being Iwobi, just lackadaisical, body language stinks.
I thought he was okay. To be honest, I thought he did. Not as well as he didn't do as well as he did against Leeds by a mile.
No.
He still looked far better than the Iwobi of certainly last week, and certainly under Benitez, he was far better than that. I know we should still want better than that, but I think I still saw him trying. Like he still looked a bit more aggressive and a bit more composed as well. I think than what we've seen before. He still needs to improve, but
second half,
I'm going to bash Iwobi there. I think he did all right.
For me, second half when we were under all the pressure and Gordon and Iwobi kind of went on to the fringes of the game because we weren't being able to break out at all. I just thought Iwobi at times wasn't running hard enough, wasn't tracking back enough for me. Most times people just walk past them. Maybe I'm just in a minority of one. Tell us what you think, but I definitely think Iwobi should have been the first player off. But forget that. I don't want to go into that, and we've said enough about Michael Keane. Let's just get back to
I want to touch on before we do. I just want to touch on some other good performances because I thought Richarlison was excellent.
Yeah, ran his nuts off as he usually does. Yeah,
I thought Coleman was pretty decent. Alan, excellent.
Yeah, he had his best game for ages. Alan Decore, mentioned him as well. He's been out for 5 weeks, and he was like a wrecking ball, wasn't he, in midfield?
Yeah, I was really impressed with some displays. Pickford, obviously, like I say, that save was incredible and should have won a game or at least got us a point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just painful, but as you mentioned, obviously we concede the goal and then we have a blatant handball waved away. It's bad enough that Paul Tierney was the ref, and I'm not his biggest fan. And for him to not notice it's bad enough, but
it was never going to get his immediate reaction to that when everyone screamed for handball. He did this with his hands. He went, no, as in absolutely not. And I knew when it went to VAR, the fact that he'd done that meant it was never getting overturned. Because there's no way that whoever was on the VAR is going to stitch his mate up. Is he? They're a little cartel. They're a little club that protect each other and close ranks.
It's like a mini Tory cabinet, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's a good way of putting it. No, they're a law unto themselves, honestly. So whenever anyone says, "Oh, referees get an hard time," you wouldn't get an hard time if you weren't absolutely shit at your job.
Referees in grassroots probably get a hard time. I get people saying things like that, but not in the Premier League. These are celebrity referees nowadays.
I can't think of any other profession in the world where you can consistently be that incompetent, that arrogant, and that just diabolically shit and have the repercussions of you being terrible are so widespreadly felt. Teams could get relegated and probably have been relegated as a result of just refereeing incompetence. I can't think of any other profession where you're allowed to get away with all of that and have nothing said to you. You can't even criticise them. You can't even criticise them because if you criticise them, you get sanctioned by the FA and people accuse you of bullying them and showing no respect.
I mean, this one, I see where you're coming from, but I really need to introduce you to this thing, Paul, called the House of Commons. Like it's so similar to.
No, we still see. I know it's maybe not. If you're Boris Johnson's close mate, or you're Boris Johnson himself, it doesn't happen. But there's still MPs who get sacked for making scandalous decisions or get shuffled around, which is basically putting a lesson for.
I've never really seen a referee get punished.
No, I can't tell you one referee who's been punished.
Well, Clattenburg got banned from Goodison for about 5 years, and that's about as good as I've ever seen.
Yeah, not to punish him, only because they knew that they couldn't guarantee the fella's safety if he came back.
Yeah, probably fair enough.
Yeah. Only because they didn't trust his presence being at the ground. They didn't trust that it wouldn't kick off, which probably would have.
But I think that's the thing. I think there's a lot of like confusion between, you know, some referees do get unnecessary abuse lower down the leagues, and that kind of stuff needs to be stamped out. But I think at the top level, there's, like you say, there's an arrogance about the referees.
Referees will get more respect when they take more responsibility. You can't expect someone to get everything right. We're not asking to be perfect all the time. No. I'm asking for officials to be, when they make a mistake, to have to own up and justify what they've done. They don't do it. They just go running into this little circle. They close ranks. They just go in the bubble, is what it's called, isn't it? They just run back to the bubble. They hide. They hide behind Mike Ashley, that clown whose entire career he spent under a cloud of suspicion. You let a clown run the business, it's going to be a circus, isn't it? But I can't really articulate my words. I can't stand just the top officials in this country when they're allowed to just get away with things like that. If it had been a mistake, it'd be a mistake. But the thing that bothers you most of all is because you know absolutely nothing will happen to those two. The VAR fella at Tierney and Chris Camvin, or whatever he's called. They'll be back at it again. They'll be back at it again next week. They'll be officiating again next week, and everyone will have completely forgot about it because they'll have moved on to the next thing. It's just, we won't forget about it because that could make all the difference in the world to how our season finishes.
Well, that, but also I think Chris Kavanagh's got history with us as well. You know, remember the Ancelotti incidents, and you saw a similar thing going on after the game today with Ashley Cole.
Just fucked a lot of them. I'm sorry for swearing, but fucked a lot of them.
No, honestly, the referees, it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. The way, I think you were saying before about the referees would get more respect if they were more open and, you know, explain things better. I think referees would get more respect if they showed clubs like ourselves respect. I think there's too much. I've said this recently. I feel like referees like kicking struggling teams when they're down.
I don't care what they like and what they don't like. I just want them to be competent at the job, and when they make an incompetent decision, that they're punished for it and they're made to explain themselves. And that doesn't happen. And until it happens, I can't see. Until that happens, I can't see how anyone can turn around and not believe that this league is rigged. Essentially, if you said to someone, if someone was just getting into football and saw all this and turned around and said, why should I believe that this isn't just all scripted? What answer could you have for them? Someone said, based on what they've seen tonight, that's the first football game I've ever seen in their life, and they said, I think this game was rigged. How could you turn around and argue it isn't? You couldn't, and that's tragic. That it's killing the game.
Well, when it's very interesting, there's going to come a time where I think a manager, whether it's Lampard or somebody else, is going to come out with a quote along the lines of what you've just said.
Well, he did say it in so many words, didn't he, Lampard? He said it's either incompetence at best or it's something else at worst, and everyone don't know what he means. He's basically said it without saying it, and good on him, because that's what everyone's thinking.
I think he's absolutely nailed it, and it's one of the things, you know, the result's really disappointing, and the way we lost the game was really disappointing, and obviously being ripped off by the referees. But if there's one thing that I really take away from this, besides the fact that the majority of our team plays really well today, the real positive for me to take away from this is we're going to be absolutely fine under Frank Lampard, I think.
You can't say for certainty because nothing's for certain, is it? But me gut, if you said to me, do you think we'll be all right? Me gut would say yes.
Yeah.
Might not be pretty at times. There will be weeks where you look at the table and it's just, you want to just put your head in your hands. Like now, I don't even want to look at the table, but I think Frank said it perfectly when he said, table will look bad for a couple of weeks, but just keep your head, realise that there's 14 games to go. Realise we've got a lot of teams coming who are absolutely nowhere near as good as City. And if we play anything close to like we played against City tonight and now we played against Leeds, then we'll pick up the points we need. So all I would say to anyone is get your anger out. Yeah, don't go over the top. Don't be like having fights. Don't be getting like, people know what I mean. But just have a vent on Twitter or on here if you want to, or just on any other forum. But just make sure when
get a pint down,
yeah. But just put it in your rear view mirror, and if you're gonna stick with the team, because to be honest, I wouldn't blame anyone if they just looked at that tonight and said fuck football, because I'm very close to doing that. But just keep your head and have faith in Frank, because I do think that we're going to be okay. I think Frank is the right appointment we've made, and he's saying all the right things, and he gets it. And I think there's a lot of players who we as Evertonians like and want to keep them at the club long term. I think they like Frank and they're responding to Frank, and the only people who are not responding to Frank or are not improving under Frank
are the ones
we wanted them. They're the ones we didn't. They're the ones that we wanted out anyway, and they're probably going to go out anyway.
I think if anything, it just shows. I think that we as Evertonians we know when our guts right.
I hope so.
And I feel from what I'm seeing, I think I'm seeing enough in Frank Lampard to see that he knows what he's doing. He's, like you say, he's conducting himself fantastically, I think. Really well.
I know, but again, just that goes back to your point. You can't know for sure that we're going to be all right, because you can conduct yourself as brilliant as you want. You do need to start getting points eventually. It's just I'm very, very hopeful that Frank will get the points, and I'd say I'm quietly confident that he will.
I'm quietly confident as well. And to be honest, mate, what I like about Lampard, I think, is if the unthinkable did happen, I'd feel confident that we will come straight back up.
Lampard wouldn't hang around, mate, if we went down, and I wouldn't blame him. I think Lampard's shown that he belongs managing a Premier League club. But let's not even go down that territory. We're a long way from having to think about that and have that conversation. And hopefully we never have to have that conversation.
I think we'll be okay, to be honest. I think I'm seeing enough of an improvement under Lampard that we will get out of it.
Yeah, well, let's just listen to Frank and not overreact and at the state of the table and the points tally, and just keep our heads and get behind the team for the rest of the season. Because if we get behind the team and we trust Frank, then he's our best chance, isn't he?
He is, and to be honest, he knows what he's saying when he says that it's for us to stay calm and just keep rocking up to Goodison and creating that atmosphere. Just take every game as a new game and just create that atmosphere and try and get the win there. And the points will add up in time.
Oh, yeah, too right, mate. Right, I'm going to need to jump off, mate, okay?
Yeah, we're going to wrap up anyway, guys. Like I say, thanks for tuning in. Keep your comments coming in. Thanks for dropping your comments. Erwin Koeman says, trust in Frank. Definitely. I think let's just keep the faith. We think we will be okay.
Fuck the VAR and fuck the referees.
Yep, fuck the VAR and fuck the referees. That's a nice way for Paul to sign off there. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Like I say, keep the faith. I think we will be okay in time. Just keep getting to the games, and anyone who went to the games, well done for creating another brilliant atmosphere. We were unlucky today. We didn't deserve to lose, and I think if we play like that, like we've just mentioned there, I think we'll be just fine as the season goes on. But nonetheless, obviously a disappointing day today. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Everton 0, Manchester City 1. Drop us your comments, keep them coming in. Give this video a like, this stream, and of course subscribe for more content. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching on the Toffee Blues.